here today to declare our independence from the tyranny of corruption, which robs us of affordable lives, our belief in the future, and our respect for each other.
Could this year really be the year of the independent?
Could Robert F. Kennedy Jr. spoil Donald Trump's 2024 re-election bid?
Any third-party candidacy can be a total wild card.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was fighting to even make it onto the ballot.
I think he's a viable candidate, and I think he can win.
But to do that, I must first declare my own independence. Independence from the Democratic Party. And from all other political parties. I haven't made this decision lightly.
I declare my independence.
He did acknowledge the fact that there is an uphill battle, but he says he will be on the ballot.
In about 10 minutes, we'll do the announcement. Are you all ready to get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. elected president? We have to get about 1 million signatures to get Bobby on the ballot. We have to collect these signatures state by state. They thought they were putting this big obstacle in our way, right? They thought that this is how we're going to stop Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
A lot of these states really ramped up their signature requirements after Ross Perot's independent run in the 1990s.
At a time when public trust in government was lower than during Watergate, Perot appealed to a group of disenchanted voters.
You could argue that's coincidental, you could argue that that's intentional, but either way, we just have to live with it and we have to move on and get it done.
We are building the biggest grassroots movement that this country has ever seen.
So if you believe in this man and you want him to be president of the United States, we need your help. Otherwise, it just won't happen.
So before every rally, we will train everybody on how to petition collect in that state.
So the first thing we're going to start with, everyone, is look at your petition packets. Qualifying is making sure that an individual is actually able to sign your petition. The first thing you should ask is, excuse me, sir, are you registered to vote here in Nebraska?
Yes.
Perfect. So this person has now been qualified. We're here filming in Lincoln, Nebraska, where we are going to need roughly 3,900 raw signatures in order to place RFK Jr. on the ballot.
The signature requirements range from 275 in Tennessee to 1,000 in Utah, 45,000 in New York, and 145,000 in Florida. And to make sure we meet our targets, we're collecting an extra 60% in every state, which means we need about 1 million signatures across the country.
Roping is merely the process of getting the clipboard in their hand and giving them the instructions to start filling out the petition. Would you like to sign our petition to put RFK Jr. on the ballot here?
You know, I don't know very much about him.
Okay, so RFK Jr. is a third-party candidate. He's running as an independent, former Democrat, long-term environmentalist, anti-war. Does that sound like something you could support?
That does.
Perfect.
I believe in that.
Hand them the clipboard before you hand them the pen. So I need your today's date, your signature, your printed name, date of birth, address, city, zip code.
Okay. They will say that they're interested in signing or they're not. And don't worry if they're not, of course, that's fine. You can just move on. There are many other people that you'll have to ask.
Now that I've handed it off to him, I don't want to just watch him. I want to bring in the next person. So, excuse me, sir, are you registered to vote here in Nebraska?
No.
No. Ma'am, are you registered to vote here in Nebraska? Would you like to sign the petition to put RFK Jr. on the ballot?
Yes.
Perfect. What you see is once he started working on it, I pivoted to the next person, but I didn't stand here and do my pitch, so I'm yelling in his ear. You anchor them to start filling out the form, and you pivot to the next person in the line. And you're going with a very simple pitch. It's a one-sentence sort of elevator spiel. Do not get into arguments or debates with people. Our goal is high-volume signatures. We are not debate club. Are y'all registered to vote in Nebraska?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to sign a petition to put RFK Jr. on the ballot? Today's date, signature, printed name, date of birth, address, city, zip code. Hi there, are y'all registered to vote here in Nebraska? Would you like to sign a petition to put RFK Jr. on the ballot? So now let's pretend Nick finished his.
Do I need to add my address?
Yes, sir, you have to have your address. You give it to the pizza guy, right? You can give it to us. They got to make sure you're registered to vote.
Here you go.
I noticed you didn't print your name here. Can you print your name? Notice how I did not take the clipboard back from him to check if he filled it out properly. You never want to take the clipboard from them until you're certain it's correct. Because if I had taken the clipboard, he would have just started walking away. And I'm like, sir. But if he still has the clipboard in hand, he's still locked into handing it back to me. And so as a result, we can get those corrections as they're needed.
I made a mistake. Can I cross it out and sign on the other?
What you're gonna have to do is cross the whole line out, and you're gonna have to start completely over. If an individual makes a flagrant or obvious mistake and they want to cross out on the petition, the best practice is to take your pen, black stripe the whole thing, put a line through it, have them start over. In every state, opposing councils representing the Biden and Trump campaigns are going to challenge our signatures and try to find reasons to throw them out. It's important that everything is done properly.
Petitioning is an art form. It's something you get better at with practice. It takes going out to first starting with your friends, your family, your coworkers. Then I think it takes going out into your community, post offices, DMVs, farmers markets, festivals, fairs, football games, any place that has a lot of people. Also, university campus is really great because Bobby has a lot of student support. The top petitioners in every state and across the country will be specially recognized as heroes of the campaign. Those signatures, each of them is a piece of getting Bobby on the ballot and achieving the change that he represents. And you will always carry that piece of having made this campaign a success and all of the change that comes from it in your heart.
Good. Nice to meet you. I'm Brooke.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. celebrating in Utah.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be on the 2024 presidential ballot.
Hey, everyone. This is Nick Brana with Team Kennedy, Utah. We've got Utah petitioning done. We are petitioning now in Maryland and South Carolina. And now we just kicked off Nebraska and Missouri.
There you go. I believe in them. I want to be able to vote for them. That's why I'm devoting about 9 months of my life to get this done.
We're back now to talk about the candidate throwing a big question mark into the 2024 race. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the independent who has drawn attention and controversy, has both major parties concerned he could shake up the race. He spoke with Von Hilliard.
Kennedy! Tonight, with the Biden-Trump rematch looking likely, there is an independent trying to make this a three-way race.
If you give me a sword and some ground to stand on, I will give you back your country.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is mounting an increasingly credible bid to qualify for the 2024 ballot, more than 55 years after his father's presidential run.
How confident are you that you could actually win the White House?
I think I can win the White House.
A new NBC News poll shows 34% of voters suggesting they could see themselves supporting him. But both Biden and Trump's allies fear he could play spoiler.
Who do you think you will draw more voters away from, Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
I mean, I hope to draw equal numbers from both of them. I think at this point, I'm probably drawing more from President Trump.
Trump himself even praising Kennedy.
He's a very good man, and his heart is in the right place, and he's doing really well.
President Biden has not even publicly acknowledged Kennedy's campaign. An environmental lawyer, Kennedy left the Democratic Party last year.
You're a Republican, and you're saying that you would be open to considering RFK Jr.
Yeah. Kennedy speaks often about America's income gap.
What's the main issue for you that brought you to him?
Oh, corporate greed, for sure.
But he has drawn scrutiny from Democrats, including for his discredited assertions vaccines cause autism, and his recent staunch criticism of the COVID shots.
Would you have tried to stop the FDA from approving the COVID vaccine?
I would have said that they need to do science to show that the vaccine is actually going to avert more problems than it's causing.
So would you have sought to stop the FDA from approving the COVID vaccines?
I don't. My policy is not going to interfere with anybody who wants to take a vaccine.
Some of his views led 4 prominent members of his own family to say he does not share the same values as their father.
Why should Americans ignore those words?
Well, listen, I disagree with my family on a lot of stuff. I have family members who strongly support me.
And Kennedy tells us he now intends to name his vice presidential running mate within the next month.
"2024 looms in the distance as 2023 comes to a close. And with 2024 comes, of course, the presidential election. But Americans might not be able to cast their ballot for their preferred candidates, as we've covered a number of times on Rising. Former President Donald Trump has been removed from Colorado's primary ballot as a litany of lawsuits in other states across the country try to do the same. Third-party candidate RFK Jr. appeared on Charlie Kirk's show last week to discuss the move, calling it one of the craziest decisions he'd ever seen. Let's watch.
That's one of the craziest decisions that I've seen, and it's terrible. I mean, it's just terrible that they, people, half the country wants to vote for Donald Trump, somewhere around half. And, if another country did that, like Pakistan or Iran or...
We would sanction them.
Well, yeah, we'd say that's not really a democracy. But, we're doing it now.
Faced with that reality, the super PAC supporting Kennedy American Values 2024 has rolled out its ballot access priorities, announcing it will focus on 7 states that add up to 183 electoral college votes: Arizona, California, Georgia, Illinois, Michigan, New York, and Texas. The PAC's founder, Tony Lyons, said of RFK Jr.'s chances that, quote, Kennedy has 2 clear pathways to the White House. We will do everything we can while working closely with our attorneys and without coordinating with the campaign to make sure that the uniparty fails in any efforts to derail the peaceful populist revolution that he represents. Here to talk about the PAC's plan for ballot access in 2024 is PAC founder Tony Lyons. Tony, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Tony, why don't you walk our viewers a little bit through how you chose those initial 7 states to focus on?
Yeah, so we chose, the states that we felt were really critical, where we felt that there were most likely to be challenges, and that those challenges were going to be expensive and time consuming, and, that those were the places, those were the real battlegrounds for ballot access. So we're putting a lot of resources into that, and we're, fighting for a fair election. And we feel that the American public ought to be outraged that a candidate and a super PAC have to spend millions and millions of dollars to get on the ballot when a candidate is polling at, between 20 and 24%.
Yeah, ballot access is a huge issue for third-party and independent candidates, and always glad to give it more coverage. The entrenched nature of the two-party system is so hard to go up against on a structural level. But I wonder what you make of the decision by the Colorado court to refuse to let Donald Trump's name even appear on the ballot. RFK Jr. obviously calling this crazy, a blow to democracy. What are your thoughts?
I have the same thoughts, that I think that people who are warning or, saying that they're trying to protect us from losing democracy in this country are the same people who are trying to take it from us. So, we don't need people to take people off the ballot, to kick people off Twitter, to protect us. We want people to get on the stage with opponents and tell us what their policies are. So we don't want people to be censored and vilified and deplatformed and, like I said, taken off the ballot. We want candidates who will get on the stage and show what their ideas are, what their policies are, what they would do as president for the people of this country. And so there are all of these forces who claim to be trying to protect us, but they're really trying to control us. So they're trying to tell us what to do, what to think, what to put into our bodies, and, who we are allowed to vote for. And that is fundamentally un-American, and it should not stand in this country. And it doesn't matter whether you agree with the person. It doesn't matter if it's, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, or Bobby Kennedy. What matters is that we have certain principles in this country that need to be defended.
So you really have your work cut out for you. I was working on the 2020 Bernie Sanders campaign. It was a mess in 2016 as well. You make a good point to say that you have to turn your efforts towards addressing any coordination of the uniparty to derail RFK Jr.'s chances here. So what does that look like? What lessons are you drawing on from how, Democrats and Republicans have both sort of pushed outsiders out of having any real political chance?
Yeah, so I think that the American public is not willing to stand for it, and that you're going to see a rebellion in 2024, that if these kinds of tactics continue, I think that Americans are going to take to the streets. They're not going to accept this kind of an outcome. They want a candidate who proves to them that he's healthy, that he's authentic, that he's going to fight for them, that he has integrity. And when you see Bobby Kennedy getting up on national television to defend the rights of his opponent, that's the kind of character that we need in a president. And I think the American people see that, and they're tired of these games, and they simply will not accept them.
Yeah, I think it's quite a contrast with President Biden, who I believe said that, he'll let the courts decide it, but of course, former President Trump was responsible for an insurrection. Does RFK Jr. hope to eventually debate? Both these individuals have not participated in debates within their own sort of nominating system. Donald Trump is not attending the Republican debates against Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, et cetera. And so far, Joe Biden has given, and his team have given no indication that they would, participate in a debate with. He has challengers as well, Marianne Williamson, Dean Phillips, et cetera. I think the assumption is, when prime time starts, they're going to go head to head if they are indeed the two nominees, the two major party nominees. How would RFK Jr. distinguish himself in that environment?
So I think that, Bobby Kennedy has the kinds of qualities that you can't train for, you can't hire a consultant for. He has integrity, authenticity. He tells the truth when he talks. And I think people really see that. And you're seeing that when people hear him talk, they're converted by him. So right now, if the election was held today and only people under 45 could vote, Bobby Kennedy would win the election. So you're seeing that when he's allowed to talk. And so, those people, that demographic, that age group, they get their information from podcasts, from shows like this, not from the New York Times or the Washington Post. So when the places that are not censoring him allow him to talk directly to the American public, that public listens to him. So if Bobby Kennedy gets on stage, people will see the qualities that he has, and they will want to vote for him. And that's why both parties, the Uniparty, basically wants to keep him off the stage, because they're afraid that he will convince the American public that he will be a better president. And that's something that ought to happen in a democracy, that you ought to be able to see the candidates, listen to their arguments, and make a decision for yourself.
What do you make of what the 2024 presidential race will be when it comes time for everyone to cast their ballots in the general? Are you anticipating Trump being the nominee from the Republicans, Biden with the Democrats, and then RFK being the very viable third-party candidate? Are you anticipating, potentially challengers from the left, the Green Party being extremely viable as well? I'm curious what you think that looks like and what your strategy is for this type of scenario where we could have 4 very viable candidates where Americans are used to having 2.
Yeah, what I think is going to happen is that it's going to be Trump, Biden, and Bobby Kennedy. And like I said, I think that if he gets on the stage, which he has to, the American people will demand it. And on the stage, he will convince the American public that the other 2 candidates are not candidates who they want to be their president. So I think that's how it's going to play out. I see a pathway to that. And I think that the struggles are going to be ballot access. Like I said, it's an outrage, but we're going to win these battles. The campaign's going to win the battles that they engage in the states that they're working in. And Bobby Kennedy is going to get on the ballot in every state, and he's going to win the election.
Before we let you go, I know there was some news involving you and your publishing company a few days ago, Skyhorse purchasing Regnery, a conservative publisher. Can you give us just a few words on the details of that and why that was a good business venture for you?
Sure. Skyhorse Publishing is trying to set itself up. I mean, I am trying to set up Skyhorse Publishing as a free speech publishing company to combat the sort of censorship and vilification that people on all sides get when they don't follow the mainstream narrative. So Regnery is a publishing company that's, been in business for 75 years. It publishes kind of mainstream Republican authors, some really great books over many, many years, more than 1,500 books. So I'm really proud to be able to combat the censorship of those kinds of books in the publishing field and make sure that in the same way that we have choice in politics, that people have choice in books and ideas. And that, I think, is so fundamental to this country. And I'm proud to be a part of those kinds of struggles, both in politics and in publishing.
Tony Lyons, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.